Hello everyone. Welcome to today's session on goods and service tax filings. So we have already completed 3 modules and we have moved to our 4th module where we are going to learn all about GSTR-1 filing, that is filing of return for outward supplies. So before we proceed with this module, let us quickly see what we learned in our previous module. So in our previous module, we learned about the GST rates like 0%, 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. What are the goods that are covered under these rates along with nil rated and exempted supplies. Then we learned about the HSN and SAC code and classification of goods and services. Afterwards, we studied about the GST compliant invoice format, it to be issued by the taxpayers. Then debit notes, credit notes and bill of supply. These documents are issued by registered taxable person through which tax adjustment is made, and in case where the supplier of goods or services is not required to charge any GST in the invoice. Then we learned about the reverse charge mechanism where the recipient of goods or services is required to discharge the GST liability instead of the supplier of goods or services. And at last we learned about the input tax credit, the eligibility and the conditions under which input tax credits can be claimed. We also learned about the blocked credits, that is the credits that cannot be availed by the taxpayer. So let us proceed with module 4. In module 4, we are going to learn about GSTR-1 format and structure overview. Then we will see preparation of data for GSTR-1, that is filling of table B2B, B2C and export in the GSTR-1 return. Then we will see HSN summary and document details. We will cover filing of GSTR-1 via offline Excel utility, that is we will how data is entered in the offline Excel utility and return is validated. Then we will see uploading and validating data on GST portal. We will see how the final submission takes place and the common errors and rectifications in GSTR-1 return. At last, we will cover the nil filing of GSTR-1 return. So let us proceed with our first topic, that is format and structure overview of the GSTR-1 return. So in this first topic of module 4, we are going to learn about GSTR-1 return. What are the filing timelines and the eligibility for filing of GSTR-1 return? Then we will see the structure of GSTR-1, section wise breakdown, that is we will see all the tables that form part of GSTR-1 return and the different mistakes that are committed by filing of GSTR-1 return. So what is GSTR-1? A person who is registered under the GST as a regular taxpayer or a casual taxable person are required to file GSTR-1 in which they furnish the details of outward supplies made by them during the reporting period. In short, in GSTR-1, your sales data is required to be disclosed. Then the frequency of GSTR-1 is monthly or quarterly return for outward supplies. The frequency of GSTR-1 filing depends on the option exercised by the taxpayer and the threshold limit as notified by the GST Act. So a taxpayer whose turnover has not exceeded rupees 5 crores can opt to file GSTR-1 return on a quarterly basis, but he can opt to file GSTR-1 return on a monthly basis voluntarily. Whereas in case where his turnover has exceeded rupees 5 crores, it is mandatory for him to file the GSTR-1 return on a monthly basis. Then GSTR-1 is filed by regular registered taxpayers along with casual taxable persons. So a casual taxable person who executes supplies on occasional basis are required to file GSTR-1 on monthly or quarterly basis as per the option exercised by him. Taxpayers like composition dealers and non-resident taxable persons are not required to file GSTR-1 return. Then GSTR-1 return contains the invoice level HSN wise and summary sales data for the reporting period. Who should file GSTR-1 return? All the regular registered taxpayers, excluding composition dealers, non-resident taxable person, input service distributors, etc., are required to file GSTR-1 return. Even with no sales, that is, no outward supply, GSTR-1 is mandatory to be filed by the taxpayer. So, if in a particular month or during a particular quarter there are no sales, then also the taxpayer is required to file a nil GSTR-1 return. Filing frequency and due dates. So, if a taxpayer having turnover greater than 5 crores, then it is mandatory for him to file a monthly GSTR-1 return. The due date for filing of monthly GSTR-1 return is 11th of the succeeding month. If a taxpayer having turnover less than or equal to rupees 5 crores, then they are having an option of filing monthly or quarterly return, that is under the QRMP scheme. In that case, if the taxpayer opts for quarterly filing, then the due date will be 13th of the month succeeding the quarter. Let's understand this with an example. Gada Electronics registered under the GST having turnover of less than 5 crores and have opted for quarterly return and monthly payment. Then the due date of the return is 13th of the next month succeeding the quarter. But during the financial year, his turnover exceeded the turnover limit of 5 crores. Now he is not eligible to file his GSTR-1 return on a quarterly basis and he is required to file GSTR-1 on a monthly basis. So, structure of GSTR-1 return. GSTR-1 is broadly divided into 13 sections or tables. So, let us see what each section contains. Table 1 to 3 contains basic details like GSTIN, legal name, financial year and the reporting period. Then table 4A to 4G contains B2B invoices, that are invoices that pertains to supplies executed in respect of registered taxable person. Then 5A to 5C contains B2C large invoices, that are invoices in respect of unregistered supplies, that to interstate unregistered supplies for value exceeding rupees 2.5 lakhs. Then table 6A contains export invoices, table 6B and C contains SEZ supply invoices and the deemed export invoices. Table 7 contains B2C others, that are small invoices related to unregistered supplies. Then table 8A and 8B contains nil rated, exempted and non-GST supplies. Table 9 contains debit notes and credit notes in respect of registered taxable person, whereas table 10 contains credit notes and debit notes in respect of unregistered taxable person. Then table 11A and 11B contains advance received and advance adjusted. Table 12 contains HSN summary of outward supplies and table 13 contains document issued like tax invoice, receipt vouchers, payment vouchers, etc. So the structure of GSTR-1 return ensures that every type of sale is captured, whether local, interstate, intrastate, exports, B2B or B2C. So let us understand each tables individually. First one is table 4A, 4B, 6B, 6C, that is B2B, SEZ and deemed export invoices. In this table, supplies pertaining to registered taxable person is required to be disclosed. All the invoices that pertains to registered person must be disclosed in this table. So what data to include? It should include recipient's GSTIN number, recipient's name, then invoice number, invoice date, total value, place of supply, then the type of supply, whether it is interstate or intrastate. Then if the taxpayer is required to generate e-invoice, then IRN of such e-invoices, then rate-wise taxable value of supplies made under the invoice along with the corresponding tax amount. Then table 5, this contains B2C large invoices. So all the interstate sales to unregistered person for value exceeding rupees 2.5 lakhs. Now this value has been revised to 1 lakh rupees must be disclosed under this table. Next is table 6A. Under this table, all the export invoices are required to be disclosed. So the informations that are disclosed in table 4 are also required to be disclosed under this table. Apart from the informations that are already disclosed in table 4, some additional informations are also required to be disclosed in table 6A. For example, additional informations can be port code, then shipping bill number or bill of export number, then shipping bill date or bill of export date, then GST payment, whether the exporter has opted for with payment of tax or without payment of tax. So what is this with payment of tax and without payment of tax? So the exporter has this option to pay GST on export and subsequently claim refund for the same. In this scenario, the GST amount that has been paid by the exporter gets automatically credited to the exporter's account within 45 days. Whereas if the exporter opts for LUT, that is letter of undertaking, then he shall not pay any GST at the time of export, and subsequent to the export he will claim the refund of the GST input tax credits on the goods and services that are exclusively used for such exports. So next is table 7, that is B2C others. This is a consolidated table containing details of all the other B2C sales. Under this table, consolidated sales made to unregistered suppliers under each tax rate is required to be disclosed. Then next is table 8, that is nil rated or exempted supplies. So under this table, goods or services with zero tax liability is required to be disclosed. So an important point to note here is that all the turnover of the taxpayer is required to be disclosed in GSTR-1. That is, whether they are taxable or exempt or nil rated, or even if they does not fall under the ambit of GST and the taxpayer has taken a registration of GST. Under this table, nil rated supplies, exempted supplies other than nil rated or non-GST supplies and non-GST supplies are required to be disclosed under the heads like intrastate supplies to registered person, then intrastate supplies to unregistered person, then interstate supplies to registered person, and interstate supplies to unregistered person. Next is table 9, that is debit note or credit notes. Under this table, the taxpayer is required to disclose the debit notes or credit notes issued during the reporting period. So under this, the recipient's GSTIN and recipient name is required to be disclosed along with debit note or credit note number, note date, then note type, that is if they are debit notes or credit notes, note value, and place of supply. So along with these details, previously it was required to disclose the original invoice number against which the debit note or credit note has been issued. But it was very difficult to map each debit note or credit note to an invoice. So this field has now been removed. So next is table 11, that is for advances. Under this table, details of advances is required to be disclosed. So in case of services, GST is also applicable on advances. Say, if I am a service provider and I have received an advance of rupees 5 lakhs, then I have to remit GST on such 5 lakhs and disclose the same in this table 11 of the GSTR-1. So under table 11A1 and A2, any tax liability arising out of such advances is required to be disclosed, whereas in table 11B1 and B2, any adjustment against such advances is required to be disclosed. For example, if I am a service provider and I have received rupees 5 lakhs as advance, then I will have to pay GST on such advances. So I will declare the GST liability arising out of such advances in the month in which such advance is received in table 11A1 and A2, and I will pay the GST in that month only. Then after the provisioning of services, when I will raise the invoices against the provisioning of such services, I will have to report it in table 11B1 and B2. Suppose I have received an advance for 5 lakhs and now I am raising the invoice against such services for rupees 7 lakhs. So my total GST liability against such services will be XYZ percentage of rupees 7 lakhs that will be reduced by the amount that I have already paid at the time of receipt of advance. So next is HSN wise summary of outward supplies. Under this table, HSN wise and rate wise details are required to be disclosed. Details like HSN code, then description of goods, then unit of quantity, total quantity. Total quantity is not required to be filled up in case of services. Then total taxable value, rate of goods or services, then the corresponding GST amount is required to be disclosed under this table. Next is document issued. Under this table, the different documents that are issued during the reporting period is required to be disclosed. So under this table, details of documents that are being issued during the reporting period, like invoices for outward supplies, then invoices for inward supplies from unregistered person, then revised invoices, debit notes, credit notes, etc. are required to be disclosed. What detail is required to be disclosed? So the details that is required to be disclosed is like the serial number from which the document has been issued during the reporting period, that is the series of documents that has been issued. Along with this, total number of documents issued, number of documents cancelled, and the net issued documents is required to be disclosed under this table. Next, table 14 and 15 are meant for disclosing the supplies that have been executed through e-commerce operators. So what are the common mistakes that needs to be avoided while filing of GSTR-1 and filling the different tables? Wrong GSTIN. Although the system will not accept incorrect GSTIN, but if the GSTIN is correct and pertains to some other taxable person, then the system will accept it. So while entering data in the B2B section, the GSTIN must be verified. Then duplicate invoice numbers. Same invoice number cannot be entered twice in the GSTR-1 return. Then HSN code errors. Every business dealing in specific goods or services has specific HSN or SAC codes. Such HSN or SAC codes must be verified while entering into GSTR-1. Then missing exports or LUT numbers. So any incomplete or incorrect data in the export field will lead to rejection of refund claims by the exporter. So the export fields must be filled up very cautiously. Then mismatch with 3B data. GSTR-1 and GSTR-3 data must be in sync with each other. Then GSTR-1 filing on GST portal, we have already discussed this in our previous module. So the steps will be, first we have to log in to our GST account and we have to navigate to the return dashboard. Then we have to choose the return period and then the type of return, that is GSTR-1 return. Then we have to prepare the data either online or using an offline utility, and we have to generate the JSON file. Upon the generation of JSON file, we have to upload the JSON file in our GST portal and validate the data subsequently. After data is validated, we have to submit the GSTR-1 return using EBC or using a digital signature certificate. So let's summarize today's topic. GSTR-1 needs to be filed on time so as to avoid any penalties or notices from the department. Then reconcile data before submission. Always reconcile the data that we have used in filing of GSTR-1 return. Use proper HSN and tax rates. The tax rate pertaining to HSN codes must be verified before filing of GST returns, and avoid frequent amendments. Any frequent amendments reflects suspicious transactions, so they must be avoided. So that was it for today's topic. Thank you.